Oh, cool. All right, can you guys hear me? 1, 2. All right, can you guys? 1, 2. All right, cool. You guys can hear me. What's up, guys? Alphonse here, and in today's live stream, joined Preston's Thoughts. He is backstage right now. So, as said in the description, I'm going to lower this because I can hear myself and it's scaring me. The description, we'll be talking about iOS 14, the tech events that have been canceled, and if Apple is having this event canceled, which honestly hasn't even been announced. So I don't think there's going to be a March event, but we're going to talk about our thoughts. I'm going to bring in. Hey, what's up, man?
Hello, how's it going?
Awesome. How about you, man? Great to have you on.
I'm pretty good. Thank you for having me here. I'm pretty chill. It's a bit early for me, but it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I like to do my live streams kind of early because I'm home alone at this time, so
Yeah, makes
it's
sense.
less noise, and I feel like every time I hit the live button or the record button when I'm doing my videos, when my parents are home, it's like they always need me for something. So it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it in the morning and have that all set.
Yeah.
So let's see who's on here. Yandere girl, what's up? What's up? Welcome to the chat. Welcome. Miles, what's up? This is actually, if you heard of Miles Tech, he's another YouTuber and friend of mine. He's always on my live streams with me.
That's cool.
Dr. Donna Walter, what's up? What's up? Welcome.
Oh, it's
Michael Pepper.
It's Pepper the God.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, if you want to join us, I can send you the link. Anybody who wants to join us and talk, I'll send you guys the link. Wait. Oh, I didn't see what Miles was saying. It's laggy on his end. Yeah, it's probably your success, man. I mean, that's that's pretty old, and honestly, I wish, but I don't know. Let's see. So I'm gonna actually send the link to Michael Pepper. That way he can join, if that's all right with you.
That's fine with me.
All right. I almost sent him the wrong link. I had the link to the live stream, to the YouTube link.
Oh, okay.
And I almost sent him that one. I'm like, he already has that.
Yeah.
So let's see, Michael Pepper. Here we go. Michael, check your DMs. I just sent you a link. So, what are your thoughts on this whole shenanigans of tech events being canceled and everything? I just heard that there was another event canceled. I'm not sure what it was. I think it was going to happen this week.
It's South by
What is it?
South by Southwest was canceled.
Oh,
Yeah,
shoot.
that's what, yeah. It's South by Southwest, and then they're canceling the
I
Google I
know.
as well.
Yeah, I know Google I/O was canceled.
Yeah, and
Um,
the March event, what's his face on Twitter? I don't know if you follow him, Mr. Oh my God, it's too early. I can't remember names here, but what is it called? He posted that he had some intel, and they were saying that the March event for Apple was canceled. So there's that as well.
yeah, I don't know if you heard me in the intro, but honestly, I didn't see it happening just because there was no official announcement for it.
Hmm.
So I didn't really think it was going to be happening anyway.
It makes sense.
Um, but I mean, if worst comes to worst, then they could just do what they have been doing and just refresh their page and add stuff there. I know that they've done that like twice in the past when it came to AirPods Pro.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they're probably gonna do a live stream, but like not have it people there, just like a live
yeah,
stream.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That
I
could
think
be
Google's gonna do
something
that as
too.
well. I'm pretty sure like a bunch of companies are gonna do that. Just have live streams but still show off the products. Because overall, like people are gonna watch the live streams more than they're gonna go to the events anyways. So like might as well just
Exactly.
have live stream as
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, keep it going. You know what I mean? Like keep the so-called like tradition going of having the event live streamed. Because people are already anticipating for it. People are already waiting for it.
yeah.
Um,
What is it called? For me, I kind of wish that Mobile World Congress was also live streamed, but like that's kind of harder to do considering there's like so many companies that go. So like I wish
yeah,
they had like another like re like could just in case this happened, like they could resort to like a live stream type of thing, but considering that they don't have like any sort of live stream set up, it would be kind of hard for them to do anything like that, which kind of sucks though because I really like Mobile World Congress. It's really fun to watch videos on and see
yeah,
other. Yeah.
yeah. I've honestly locked myself into the Apple world, and for a while I was just looking for Apple events. But then I opened myself up a little bit. I watched um, Google I/O for like 2 years straight, and I watched same thing with Samsung. I think
Yeah.
I don't remember watching the S9 event. I know I watched the S10 and the recent one that just happened not too long ago. And yeah. So let me ask you, what do you think of the new lineup that Samsung has with the Galaxy uh, Fold and Flip?
Wait, just those two phones or like the S20 lineup?
Well, the S20 lineup. What do you think?
Uh, I don't know. I don't really like them. To be honest with you, I watched the S9, what is it called, launch, and I saw like the whole thing, and that's because I was during school, right? That was 2 years ago. I saw the S10 event
Mhm.
during school, like 2 years ago, over last year, and then for the S20 event, like I saw like 10 minutes of it, and I was already like, okay, this is boring. Like I don't know. There's something that was like lacking when it came to the S20 lineup. I can't really put my finger on it. A lot of people like are gonna say otherwise and say that they're great phones, and while that might be true, I think they're going in the wrong direction. Like people want something, and Samsung was like, okay, we'll do all the specs in the world, but most of those specs really don't matter because, in my opinion, if you see like camera comparisons, like the iPhone and Pixel 4 still beat the Samsung S20 Ultra. So like it doesn't really matter. I think the S20 and the S20 Plus are a way better buy than buying an S20 Ultra. I don't think you need an S20 Ultra, and I'd never recommend it to anyone that was looking to get
Yeah.
a new phone. I just don't think it's worth it at all. Regardless if you have the money for it, you're just wasting money at that point. So that's what I think.
Yeah. So you saw the S20 event and all the videos people have posted about it, right?
Yeah, but everyone's just talking about the S20 Ultra. So like, who cares about the S20 and S20 Plus? That's basically the kind of vibe I got from Samsung themselves, because that's all they talked about. They didn't talk about the S20 or S20 Plus that much. So it's kind of disappointing to hear that, but that's just how it is.
Right, yeah. But what do you think of the 100-time zoom?
Huh. It's a gimmick for sure. Yeah. You
Yeah.
can just call it
Yeah,
that.
that was bad. I mean, honestly, when it's cool. It's cool that it can do that, but the way that it's I don't know if they just didn't work on it completely or what, but you can really tell that it's just shaken up. You can't really see, it's not clear at all, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you use
it's basically a little dot. It's like,
I know,
you know,
but
oh,
for 100-time zoom,
the guy was just like,
it's gonna be shaky, and like no matter what you use, like let's just say you had a camera and you used you got a zoom lens that did 100 times. Unless if it doesn't have like OIS or image stabilization built into the lens, it's gonna be shaky, like going crazy. So it's not that they didn't work on it. It's just like that technology requires a tripod no matter what. You can't just what is it called, zoom in 100 times on like a normal camera without its tripod. I mean, you can, but it won't look as good. And you can see that with the S20 Plus or S20 Ultra. You can zoom in to what is called 100 times with the phone, but it won't look as good as if you did it with the tripod. And the same applies to like any phone, any camera that uses 100 times zoom. It just looks better with a tripod. Like you can still do it without it, but it's just not worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like I said, it's cool to have, but I just don't think it's going to be a thing of the future
No,
with any other phones. You know,
I should be like 30 times zoom. Like you don't really need more than 30 times zoom. And Huawei Huawei does a really good 30 times zoom. So there's that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I agree. So, guys, by the way, if you guys have any questions or anything, drop them down in the chat. We'll answer them for you. Let me ask you this. I know we know pretty much everything when it comes to iOS 14. I can't believe it's already iOS 14.
Yeah.
But what are you expecting out of it? What would you like to see that we don't know already?
Okay, well, I'd like to see a lot of things that I know will never happen. So there's that. What I mean by that is like a lot of features that I would want in iOS, they probably will never offer, considering called it falls under the line of like customization. So I wish they could let you have more apps on your screen. I think the icons are way too big. I like the iPad approach here, where they gave you the two options with iPad OS. I think the iPad Pro is amazing, but they will never put that on iPhone, because why buy an iPad when you can do that on your iPhone as well? I wish they had what is it called? I wish they had a pro mode in their camera for once. Like I don't know, like you have to download a third-party app for that, and I know that might not be a problem for most people, but like come on. I know a lot of companies don't. I wish Google had a pro mode in their camera app, but like I wish a bunch of companies just offered pro mode. Okay.
Definitely.
And then I don't know. I just don't really like how iOS looks in general. I think like in general, when it comes to like how the apps look, it looks very, how can I say it? Like the apps are so big that it looks cluttered on your home screen. If you just have your apps, your screen full with apps, I think that looks really ugly when you look at your phone. And then every iPhone looks the same, and I don't like that. I don't like how every iPhone looks the same. I wish you had more control over how it actually looked. I know I'm in the minority here, but like I really do like customization. So like if you look at my Android phone, it's the S10 Plus, it will not look like anyone else's S10 Plus because it's the way I designed it, right? Because I put in my own icon pack. I used a different launcher. I'm not saying they should offer these things. I just wish they'd offer more features than what they already do. Like a grid would be nice to see, like how many, like a 3x3 grid if you wanted to do something stupid like that, or even like a 6x6 or like 6 apps going across and six apps diagonally. So like just give you more options of how many apps you can have on your home screen. Now it might become crazy, but like, just like
if they did it, if they did a redesign like they did with the iPad, making the apps a little smaller, I think that would be definitely a good idea. That way, because a lot of people have different pictures as the home screen. Like me, I have this picture of Portugal when I went. If I mean, you can barely see it when the phone's unlocked. If the apps were smaller and you can customize it kind of like Android, as you said, then it would be cooler. That way you can see the picture that you have. I mean, I know that people, some people will argue and say, oh, why don't you just put everything in folders and that way you can see, because I know a lot of people who have everything in folders just across the top or across the bottom, and you can see the whole picture. You know what I mean? So
but I feel like
in that aspect,
I feel like you're kind of considering they don't have an app drawer, because iPhones don't have that. They don't have app drawers like Android. But I think you're kind of forced into going into the folder route, even if you don't want to do it, which kind of sucks. Like for me, I think with iPhone, you're forced to do things the Apple way, and if you don't like it, then don't buy it. Like that's kind of the way it goes for most iPhones. Like if you don't like how iOS looks, well, tough luck. You can't change how it looks. So if you don't like how it looks, you probably don't want to buy it. If you don't like how it feels, well, it's not like you can change the way iOS feels, then like you're kind of like restricted to like one select path that Apple chose, which was the best path that they thought for iOS. And if you don't like it, you're just gonna have to deal with it no matter what. And if you don't like that you have to deal with it, then probably wouldn't recommend buying an iPhone unless you really like the Apple ecosystem. Then I don't think you want to buy it for yourself. So it's just like it goes down to like you got to know what you're getting yourself into, and it's not a bad thing that they're doing this. It's like it's very smooth, and the way they designed it is like it's nice, right? But it's just not for everyone. Definitely. So if this person doesn't like it, they should know that ahead of time before buying it, and then being like, "Oh, I don't like it," and it's like, well, it's a little bit too late for that. Like you should have probably thought of that before you got the phone. So it's just it all comes down to like preference, I guess you could say. And a lot of people wouldn't like customization because well, in general they say Apple is supposed to be very what is called smooth and stuff, right? Like it's supposed to be very simple for people to use, etc., etc. So that's why people might not like the fact that they are adding customization and stuff like that. So it's just all comes down to what people want. Since I'm an Android person, I'm gonna say all for what is it called, customization. But an Apple person could say, I don't like that because I want it to be very simple. So it's just personal preference at this point. There's no right way.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Michael, what's up, man?
Michael, hello.
Howdy, guys.
How's it going?
Good. I just woke up and literally
woke
up, turned over, and went, "It's 11 o'clock. Shoot, he's gonna be on. I'll get ready."
Yeah.
Time change is killer, man.
The time change is killer.
Oh, trust me. Oh my God, you can't even. So Yeah, but Preston, I definitely agree with you. You know,
I've been
and
listening though.
like you said, it is what it has been. It is personal preference. You know, not everyone's going to be happy. You know, and it's like I say, you can't please everyone. You know, that's why that there are different companies out there and different ecosystems and everything. So, you know, it just comes down to what people want um, uh, in a phone, what people expect of the phone to do, you know.
Mm.
So I definitely agree with you on that. So, Michael, what's going on, man?
Nothing too much. I was just thinking about what you were talking about and the whole Android versus iOS thing. And I think one thing that people forget is that because the customization that is available with Android also makes it a little bit more difficult for developers. And I think that's partially why Apple kind of is like, hey, we have a benefit because you don't have to create something for multiple versions.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's
definitely.
true.
It is annoying
Definitely.
though that like if you don't use the default apps and up until recently you couldn't remove a lot of those, and now there's ones where that you can remove that you just kind of had to throw them into a folder somewhere. Like I have
Oh,
a folder
all
that's
that.
literally Apple extras, and it's like the ones I can't remove that I don't use.
Yeah. I
And
don't
like if
know.
you do,
That's kind of
Yeah.
why I like using the app drawer on Android. Like, if you don't want them on your home screen, you don't have to have them there. You just put them in the app drawer and you just forget about them. But like on iPhone, you can't really do that. You kind of just have to put them in a folder wherever and just leave them there and
and
never
then
use them.
at the same time, it's one of
Right.
those
Yeah.
like I've put apps in the app drawer and then forgot that I had them because unless you use like Samsung will just put it on the next page unless you refresh it. And I've
Yeah.
had times where something's been there. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I already downloaded that.
No. Yeah.
It happens either way if it's in a folder or in the app drawer. It's just two different ways of handling it.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some people even have uh, both iOS and Android just because they like both for, you know, whatever reason, you know.
I'm just bored. I can't do
If
that.
I personally, if I had the money, I would get an Android and have the best of both worlds. But right now, I just don't have that kind of money.
I
You
don't think
know,
it's worth it, to be honest with you. I think buying two
what is it?
phones I think buying two phones is kind of like overkill because you only need one phone to
Mm-hmm.
get you through the day. I think buying another phone, but just like an iPhone or an Android, it's kind of like wasting money, to be honest with you. Like you could spend that $1,000 into like a new computer part or something like actually that you need rather than another phone because you already have another phone. There's no real reason to buy a second phone. I know a lot of like YouTubers do it, but that's because they have the luxury to do it. I don't think if you don't have the luxury to do it,
Yeah,
then you probably
yeah,
shouldn't do it because it's just not worth your money, man. You probably
yeah,
could spend that better place.
For me, it was
yeah.
because
That
of
is true.
discounts and rebates and wanting to be able to compare both fairly. So when somebody asks me, hey, how's that different on Android or how's that different on iOS, I have the comparative, to not just assume I can actually in front of me do it. But like I keep my phones for a long time though. So I'll have these for like 2, 3, 4 years. Even the Android ones, I'll be able to keep
Mm-hmm.
that long now. So
Yeah,
just depends. I wouldn't
Yeah,
recommend that
definitely.
everybody do that because, like you said, spend $3,000 and $2,000 to $3,000 in phones is not. You could buy a car, rent an apartment for, depending on where you live, a few months.
you could spend that
So,
money in a lot of better ways than buying like a second phone. Unless you really need to buy that second phone, then I probably wouldn't recommend it. And then if you're gonna buy a second phone, you could always just buy a budget Android phone. So you could always do that.
Yeah,
buy like buy like last year's
S10 Plus.
S10e or
It's like
something.
500. It's like $500 right now. So
Yeah.
See, that's the thing with me. Like, I wait a couple months before I actually buy the phone. You know, like let's say the Galaxy Fold. You
yeah.
know, that came out. A lot of people bought it. It ended up having issues. People had to send it back, wait for them to fix it and send it back to them.
Uh-huh.
Why? I honestly, I understand that. Yeah, they made it a very cool thing. So people are gonna get right on it, pre-order it, whatever. For me, I would just wait it out and see what other people are gonna say. If this ends up going to be, an issue of the, whatever. Because honestly, when that happened, people kept saying, "Oh, this is not going to be a good phone." People are not going to. If a company releases a phone, okay, and a person pre-orders it, and it has an issue, people are going to be like, "Okay, well, this phone isn't good." I think companies, and I've said this before, I think companies should make sure that everything works correctly, and then say, "Hey, the phone's ready. We're gonna send it out." Make sure that it doesn't have that kind of issue, because then, like I said, people are pre-ordering it, and then once they get it, it ends up having an issue, and people are gonna be like, "Why did I even get this?" and go to a different company or get another phone.
Well, it's because when
I
you
think,
say that, a bunch of literally every company that releases a new phone always has problems. It doesn't matter what phone it be. Like literally, the iPhone 11 Pro, for example, had a bunch of like bugs in it when it first came out. Like almost every company has had a problem with their phone when it first comes out, and that's just because when they're testing the phone, they're doing it in labs, and they do like on-hand testing. That's why you always see those leaked images of like the S20, for example, in the middle of the streets or something. But at the end of the day, they don't really know if the phone's really ready for the market until they actually put it out in the market. So for example, the Galaxy Fold,
yeah,
they didn't think about the fact that people are going to take off the screen protector, which, come on, I'm pretty sure they should have known that from the first place, but they didn't think about it. And when it actually happened, they were like, "Oh, let's fix that." But like the phone had to be actually like released or given to like reviewers and all these things to actually figure out most of the problems that comes out with all these new phones. So I think whenever someone says like, "Oh, like the phones should be ready for the market," well, yes, of course they should, but it really comes down to like the fact that they won't really know all the problems that are happening until the phone's actually like sold to people and it's in people's hands, and then they start learning off of everyone else's experiences with the phone, and a bunch of people have bugs and a bunch of people don't have bugs. So it's just like you got to address the people that have the bug on their smartphone and the people that don't have the bug on their smartphone, and it's a lot of like back and forth with the company and the people that own the phone, and that's basically how I see it.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
They don't.
it's, to me, it's just, I if I had a problem, like I had years ago, I had the Samsung S3, and that kept giving me software issues. I had this pop up. And Michael, I don't know if you've remembered this, but it used to keep saying, every time I'd open an app, I'd be on the app for a minute or two, and it'll say the app has stopped working when clearly it hadn't.
Yeah.
So that just annoyed me. And it was the little things like that. And I at the time, I wasn't a tech creator. I didn't know anything about tech at all. So I didn't know about software issues and all of that. So, automatically I just thought to myself, this phone is a piece of crap. I just didn't have a good experience with it at all.
Well,
So I came back to Apple. And
granted, I mean, old Android phones were all pretty bad, to be honest with you. Like, Android didn't start getting good.
yeah, that's true.
They didn't start getting good until like 4 or 5 years ago. That's what I think. Like around when I can't even speak, but when Google released their Nexus 6P and like the Nexus 5X or their whole Nexus line, that's when Android started getting good. When Google released their Nexus line, and even the first Pixel device was pretty good as well. And now the Pixel 2 XL was really good as well, in my opinion. So it's just like it all started with like the Nexus lineup, and I think after when everyone saw how good like the Nexus 5X was and stuff like that, I think that's when what is it called, or even the Nexus 6. My brother had the Nexus 6, and that phone was a beast. It had like a 6.3-inch screen for like 300, $400 when it first came out, and it was just a great phone in general. And what is it called? Over time, like I don't know, it's just like over time after those phones came out, that's when Android started picking up the pace and started getting better and better over time.
Yeah.
That's true.
Dr. Donald Walter says,
Yeah,
camera issues. Yeah.
I do agree with that one.
With the new Samsung could have been caught prior to the release, and it's true. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you've seen,
right there and then. Right there and then, when I think it could have been fixed, but
yeah,
that's just me.
You're kind of taking the Apple approach where they're saying, "Oh, nothing's wrong with it." Yeah, so they said that nothing was wrong with it. They haven't seen any problems with it, and like I don't know, it sounds like an Apple thing to say. Oh, they're like people are having problems, and oh, like you're just holding it the wrong way or some dumb thing like that. So it's kind of dumb to see that Samsung's going that route, because there's a thread on Twitter that was saying that if you have problems with your S20 Ultra or S20, what is it called, phone, then leave it in the comments below, because Samsung thinks that nothing's wrong with their phone. So I'm like, okay.
So I'm actually getting ready to do a video that was suggested to me on this particular subject, having to do with what is software, as far as what they do with software, and what is hardware based for cameras, and what affects it, and what things can and can't be fixed, so that people will kind of understand what's going on. But the irony is there actually is part of it of you're holding it wrong because of the size of the sensor. There actually is an issue, like for the first time with smartphones, this particular sensor doesn't have an infinite depth of field like most of them do. So a little bit, just kind of a quick tidbit on that is most of these companies use kind of the same sensor for all of their lenses up until now. And the differentiation between wide angle and all that, was the lenses and partially software. So for bokeh mode or portrait or whatever you want to call it, it was software that would use the depth that it picked up between the two lenses, or in Google's case, just kind of analyzing a bunch of images and saying, well, this is what it should look like. And the software makes the blur. Well, in this case, the hardware, there's actually a close focal distance.
It's a very shallow depth of field.
Yeah, there's that field of view issue, and then there's the depth of field does not actually have like a close to far away. There's a limitation on that. So that's physics. You can't change it. And so you could quite literally be trying to focus on something that's outside of that nearest to furthest point, and it's just not going to be able to do it, and they won't be able to fix it.
Yep. When it comes to stuff like that, it's just like, okay, so a bunch of other phones have had 108 megapixel cameras, right? Now, I'm not saying they're any better because they obviously aren't. But the fact is that those 108 megapixel phones would get everything in focus. Now, that could be because they weren't using as big of a sensor, but those 108 megapixel cameras did get everything in focus, while Samsung's S20 Ultra, from what we've seen, hasn't gotten things in focus. And that kind of is a bit of a downside to what I've seen. And then if they're going to release a phone that has a camera that does this, shouldn't they inform the audience during their event, or shouldn't they have done something to tell the people, yo, this is how this camera works and this is how you should use it? Because it's sort of like using manual mode, but the manual mode is locked into one specific area that if you get too close, then you're going to become blurry. If you get too far, then it's going to become blurry, right? So it has to be right in the exactly like in the exact zone that Samsung made the phone to be able to do. And if it's not in the exact what's called focus area, then it's gonna come out blurry. But not once did they ever mention that. They just said, "Oh, it's 108 megapixels. Like that's great. It's perfect, right?"
So with that, they I think it's because by default they do pixel binning, so it's set to a 12 megapixel where 9 pixels are kind of broken
Well, that's
down to
true.
1,
Yeah, how about that?
and that most people, so you actually have to go into the it's not even in like a normal setting area, it's under the aspect ratios
Yeah, and then you change it
to
to
get to it.
198. Yeah,
So I think they expect that most people just aren't going to do that. Just like a lot of people will leave the default 1080p, 60 hertz setting on. They won't, unless they know about it, they won't go in and change it. But
yeah.
the other thing, when you were talking about other companies using the same sensor,
Mhm.
you have to remember though that there's also the difference in the distance between the sensor and the glass, like in the
Yeah.
lenses. So I wonder if the other companies are putting theirs further back. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of if you think about it, like you have your sensor and then you have your lens,
Yeah.
and if this was the distance before and they keep it the same so that the whole entire module isn't made any thicker, in
Mm-hmm.
order to spread that light out across the whole sensor, they have to essentially take the curve of the lens and flatten it out more to spread that light across. Well, that creates a narrower zone, like you said, for focus. It's more in the middle. But I wonder if these other companies, and I'm assuming this is what they're doing, because based on what I've seen, if you look at like the camera modules and you look at um, even the internals of these things, and some of these are using floating lenses, even
Yeah.
is they're pushing that further away so they can keep the curve the same, and you maintain area of focus across that whole sensor.
Yeah. I don't know how they're doing it, but I
Yeah.
just seen like MKBHD did a video a while back about 108 megapixel camera on a I don't know if it's a Huawei smartphone or no, it wasn't a Huawei phone. It was like a Xiaomi phone or something like that. Like one of those like Chinese branded phones that like had a 108 megapixel camera. And like mostly everything was in focus. Now it wasn't that great of a camera, but like the fact is that it got more things in focus than the S20 Ultra that we've seen so far. So
I think that
there's that.
was the Mi. I think that was the Mi 10 or the Mi 10 Pro, and
Maybe.
yeah, it still had problems though. Like the edges were really blurry.
Yeah, but like in general, when it came to just getting like the person's face in focus, more than
Yeah.
90% of the time it was in focus rather than the S20 Ultra. So
Yep.
I think I remember seeing that. Um, so
Before I forget, real quick, you guys were talking about canceled events earlier. So did any of you see something about
yeah, I was
that?
gonna ask you about that, Michael.
Apple's June event may be canceled because usually they're already sending out notifications and invitations and stuff. And so the um because Max Weinbach, who also that's who you were talking about earlier,
yeah,
was basically informing us that the March event was going to be done differently. Um he and a couple other people kind of precluded that the June event will be done differently too, and they'll probably just do what they do, and they've done a couple times. New iPads come out and they just drop them online, and you don't even know it until you go to check the website, or like a article comes up like on Macworld or like Apple News or like Flipboard or one of those, if you have that, it comes up in one of the articles and somebody says, oh, new iPads came out or whatever. But I have a theory on that anyways. I don't think we're getting new iPad Pros in March. I think those are going to November because the last couple were in November.
I agree.
And the other reason for that is I think what we're going to see is this new iPhone released end of this month, official release probably the beginning of April as far as availability. And along the same lines will be regular iPads. And then the Pro model will be in November after they do the new iPhones, and they're going to do 5G on both, because it would be weird for them to release a new Pro with this micro LED, the new updated processor, and 5G before they even have a 5G iPhone. It wouldn't be the first time. Like the first LTE was actually technically iPad before iPhone. So
to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't add 5G, because when Apple makes a device, they always say, oh, this isn't ready yet for smartphones. They said the same comment about in-display fingerprint scanners. They didn't think the technology was ready yet. And you could apply that to 5G. 5G is so useless right now. Like, it is not even worth putting in your phones. It's just like an extra module that nobody can really take advantage of, because 5G isn't really a thing right now. So I think adding 5G to an iPhone is kind of useless and pointless, and I would probably be happier if they didn't include a 5G module, because it would be a lot more expensive if they did this. So if they include a 5G module right now, it would just be a lot more expensive, and like more than 70% of the population that buys an iPhone wouldn't even be able to use 5G. And if you've seen like speed tests, 5G is only good in a specific certain area. So if they're not in this specific area, 5G would just be like 10 megabytes download speed or something like that.
I was just about to say that.
So it's just like...
I'm just about to say that.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think 5G is worth it.
I don't either. It said a lot of areas are not covered with 5G. There's a lot of areas, especially where I live, I don't think I would get 5G. So what's the point? I honestly barely get 4G and LTE sometimes, especially LTE. I get most of the. I don't get LTE.
Yeah,
in some of the areas I go to. So it's like
future-proof the smartphone. Like they're trying to future-proof it, so like it's good in the future. Well, to be honest with you, I don't think 5G is going to be ready in the next year. I think it'll be ready in like 2 to 3 years from now. So when you say future-proofing,
exactly.
I'm pretty sure no one's really going to be using the S20 Ultra 3 years from now, because Androids don't have that long of a lifespan. So I don't know.
There was already an article that said it's going to get 2 years of support, and that's it.
Yeah, it's 2 years. Like, whoop-de-doo, come on.
So that's where I could see, though. That's where I could see, though, with an iPad, why it would make sense, because like people keep those things forever. Like I just upgraded mine, and it's almost 5 years old.
Yeah.
But
like for me, I kind of, when it comes to Android, I'm kind of leaning more towards wanting to buy a Google smartphone, considering it can last up to 3 years if I wanted it to. So I just want them Google to release a good smartphone for once. Their camera has always been good, but there's always been a problem. And I do really like the Google Pixel 4 XL, but they were lacking in the battery department. So they're always lacking in some area. So I'm just hoping like the Google, I probably won't buy a new phone this year, but like the Google Pixel 6, for example, is probably when I might want to be upgrading. And I just want them to release a phone that does really well and checks all the boxes and it can last me up to 3 years. Because I don't want to buy another Samsung smartphone, if I'm being honest with you guys. I probably don't want to buy another Samsung smartphone, mainly because of the fact that one, the prices are just getting higher and higher, and most of the features that they're offering, I just don't see the worth in it. So like the S20 Ultra, I think the S20 Ultra
Yeah.
is very overpriced. I don't think I'd ever buy a phone that had all those features, and I don't think I'd ever want a phone that has all these features because at the end of the day, it's all about what is it called, software. Like when it comes to specs, specs only get you so far. You see that with a bunch of Android budget phones. Specs can only get you so far, but when it comes like down to it, it's all about the software. And One UI 2 is really good, but in general, like I don't know, I still put a launcher over One UI 2.0. Maybe that's just me, but I don't want to buy
Yeah.
a new Samsung smartphone if they keep on going the route that they're going. So, for example, if next year's smartphones the lowest price is $1,100, then you can only imagine how much it's going to be 2 years from now. It's probably going to be $1,400 for the base model, and the prices are just getting higher and higher. And I don't think it's like the law of diminishing return. You spend more, but you get less out of it. So it's just like that's how I see most companies right now. And I think the only company that's not really doing this is like OnePlus, maybe OnePlus when it comes to like the
Right.
overall experience. Like I think
So-
even Apple's guilty of this as well because you don't really get that much out of an iPhone for how much they're charging. Like to me, I think the iPhone 11 is really good, but I don't think the iPhone 11 Pro Max is ever going to be worth it for the price point it's going for. Because if you compare the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max, like the differences are like zero to like one or two differences between the two. So I don't think it's really worth spending that much money over an iPhone 11 Pro Max. So I don't know. I just
Right.
when it comes to me, it's just like I always look at the money part of it because I mean I don't have all the money in the world. And when I was getting a phone, the way to like convince my parents when I was younger, hey, we should upgrade to this phone, I'd have to tell them why, and then how much it is, and then how much we'd be saving if we did this instead of buying this other phone later on in the years. And that's how I got most of my smartphones. So I kind of had to learn what about technology because my parents aren't the richest people in the world. So I never wanted to force them to buy me an iPhone. That's why I never grew up on iPhones, mainly because I wasn't a big fan. But overall, it was just way more expensive than buying an Android smartphone at the time. And now it's kind of similar nowadays, but like back then, it used to be iPhones prices were a lot steeper than Android smartphones. So I just stuck with Android because
Definitely.
of the price factor. And overall, I don't know. It's just money is a big thing to me because not everyone has the luxury to be buying these $1,000 phones or $1,100 phones. So that's how I picture my smartphones.
I mean
Com-
that and just like me, like that's why you see me, talking about these phones, giving my opinion about them, but I don't go out and buy products. I look at other people's YouTube uh, videos. I go online and research it. And I give my opinion on it.
Mhm.
I don't buy the product and review it and say, this is good, this is bad, whatever.
Mhm.
I go on what other people are thinking, and also based on what other people are saying, I
Mhm.
give my own opinion, and that's how I do it. Because like you said, our parents don't have that kind of money. You know,
Yeah.
I personally would love to get a new computer. I would personally love to get a new MacBook Pro. Or to get a MacBook Pro because I'm only using my iPad right now.
Yeah.
And occasionally when I do the streams, I have an HP computer that
Mhm.
like runs completely slow. But
Yeah.
luckily, it still does my live streams, and I'm happy. But still, for certain things, I would love a MacBook Pro. But unfortunately, we don't have that kind of money, and I just find other ways around it. And kudos to the people who have the money and can review products every year when they come out. Congratulations, but that's just not me.
And I think when it comes to spending money on for example, people who bought the S20 Ultra just to make a bad review on it and then keep the smartphone, isn't that kind of like wasting your own money? At the end of the day, you're saying,
yes.
Oh, I bought this phone, but I don't like it, but I bought it, so I'm gonna keep it anyway. It's like, I don't know, if you don't like the phone, regardless of how much money you have, if you don't like the phone, you shouldn't be forced into thinking that you have to buy it. Just
your audio is kind of
like, I don't know, I just don't see the point in buying a smartphone that you don't like just because you have to make a video on it. Because no one said you have to make a video with a physical phone in your hand. No one's telling you to do that. Now, if they send the phone to you, then that's amazing. Like, you don't have to buy it. But if they don't send the phone to you and you go out and buy it yourself just to make a review and be like, yeah, I don't like it, then why'd you buy it in the first place? Like, just send it back. Don't keep it.
Right.
That's kind of just like, you need to realize that you have to save money. Like, it's not all about, buying this phone because it's the newest thing and I should get views off of it. You can get just as many views if you don't have the actual phone in hand. So I don't know. I don't see the point in buying a phone that you think and that you won't like, unless, what is it called? You want to try something new and then you're like giving it a shot, but then you make a video out saying you don't like it. And then if you go onto the Twitter page, they're like, oh, I'm gonna keep it. I'm like, didn't you just say you didn't like it, but you're gonna keep it anyways? Like, you're not gonna use the phone if you don't like it. So then why keep it? Like, it's just gonna be on a shelf. $1,400 phone is just gonna be on the shelf doing nothing, and you don't like it. So it's just like, why'd you buy it in the first place? Like, I don't know. You gotta be smart about spending when it comes to smartphones. Because if you're not gonna like the phone, then don't buy it. Like, there's no reason to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. What?
Michael disappeared.
Yeah, he left for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe something happened. But yeah, no, I think people need to be smarter about how much money they spend on a phone, and whether or not it's going to actually improve or be helpful to whatever their life is, you know what I mean? Whatever they're looking in a phone. And also, buying a phone every year. If you're the kind of person that you can buy the phone, okay, cool. But I think that also I'm gonna add him in. I think that also every year, like, let's say and this is just an example, 6 to 6S. That's just a small upgrade. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not technically worth buying, because it's just a small upgrade. Now, if you were going, like, let's say me, I went from the iPhone 6 to iPhone 10.
Yeah.
That is a major upgrade. Mm-hmm. So I would wait a year or two before actually getting a phone and saying, is this actually worth my money? Is this small upgrade worth, whatever money? Now, if you're a tech creator or a tech person that likes to get, like, let's say camera, okay? If you like whatever is coming in the camera or whatever, and you want that, if you can, absolutely. But if you're buying it and then it's going to hurt you in the long run, you got to think about what you just did.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because people will go out and buy things and then be like, okay, now I don't have money for this, so I have to return this or sell this.
Yeah.
Why'd you get it in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
I see a lot of these creators, and God bless, I'm not trying to diss on anyone or whatever, but I just see these people buying things, reviewing them, and then sending them back. It's like,
I mean, that's
I
fine.
don't. How are you getting money? How are you getting money off of that? How
Well,
I just think that's wasting money, and then.
I mean, you're getting your money back, considering you have to return the device. So it's a smarter way of doing it. You're saving money. You want to get the phone in hand, but you also don't want to keep it. So it could be better for people who want to make a review about a phone, but are not particularly fans of it, so to speak. So they're like, oh, it's an okay phone, right? But I wouldn't use it as my daily driver. Then they could just send it back whenever they wanted to, which is a smarter way of doing things instead of saying, oh, I don't like the phone, but I'm gonna keep it anyways, because then you're just not gonna use it at all. So it's a smarter way of doing things.
Yeah, it's like, well, if you don't like it, just sell it. I mean, there's a lot of people who, even if you go on eBay or whatever, you can sell it for cheaper, but people are gonna buy it for cheaper, but at least you get some money out of it,
Yeah, for sure.
Trade-in deals
back,
are
Michael.
a huge thing.
I don't know.
Yes. I don't know what happened. But what I was going to say, though, is for me, as someone who owns multiple devices, it's only because I got them because I wanted them and will actually use them, and because of the deals and things like that between switching carriers, and they have, you get one line, you get the certain amount off the second one and things like that. Because we only I upgraded every 2 years. I had the iPhone 4. And then I got the 6, and then when the 6S Plus came out, I did jump that year, but that's because I switched carriers.
Yeah.
And then it was to the 10 and out to the 11 Pro Max. And like you said earlier, not everybody needs these, like the Note 10 Plus and the 11 Pro Max, like the phones like I have. But for me, I got them when they had deals, and I actually.
Yeah, but you're being smart about
every
it,
day,
right?
I have computers and stuff, I actually get the use out of them, and I will get
Oh, he's gone.
about.
Oh, welcome back. You're cutting out half the time.
That's annoying.
Yeah. But what you were saying, see, you're being smart about it. I'm talking about people who spend the money and then don't use the smartphone. So, for example, people who made an S20 Ultra review just to say that they don't like the phone, but they're going to keep it anyways. There's a lot of creators that did that this year. And I'm like, if you knew you weren't going to really like the phone, but you're going to keep it anyways, isn't that basically wasting money? Just sell it. Get something out of it. Get your money back. If you're not going to get the full use out of a smartphone, you shouldn't be buying it in the first place. You're getting this whole use out of your S10, what's called Note 10 Plus. But that's because you're actually using this phone. But if you're not going to be actually using it and getting the use out of it, then it's not a worthy investment. Because phones nowadays are basically an investment because of how much they cost now. But if they're spending so much money on a phone and putting in the money and the work that comes out to trying to buy these phones, then it shouldn't be a thing to just be this phone is not that good, so I'm gonna set it to the side and never use it again, but I'm gonna keep it anyways. I don't know, I just don't think that's worth my time or anyone else's time.
Yeah, definitely. Hey guys, I just sent you guys a thing on the private section here. That
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
All right.
No problem.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So yeah, it's one of those, like, if you are going to actually use it, it makes sense. And I feel like that's what I try to even put forth in my reviews. Like when I talk about my Note 10 Plus in DeX mode, it's more like this is what it has over other Android phones, but only if you're going to use it. Like, don't get it just because it's cool, just because it has it. But like,
Yeah.
this is what you can use it for. Like, if you have an older laptop, right, and you can't afford to get a new one, but you need to get a new phone. Like, if you're looking at something in that price range, anyways, I mean, if it's supposed to going out and buying, yeah, you could buy a Chromebook and buy like a cheaper Android phone and probably have a similar thing. But if you already have a computer, and let's say, it's work on it, or even like you want to have the advantage of being mobile and you have unlimited data, you just plug your phone in and you have access to the internet from your phone. You don't have, because you can tether, but hotspots usually have like 20 gigs of limited data or whatever it is. It's all about use case. But I do agree, like these people that just buy the phone and then either they slam it or they buy it and they praise it, but then they're just going to return it. Like, let people know. And then the thing with that is you're not going to be able to do like reviews down the line. So if you buy it, for example, people that got the S20 Ultra now, if they're having camera problems, and let's say Samsung fixes it, but it takes them a little bit to truly fully fix it, like a month or so, you're not going to own the phone and be able to come back and say, hey, it's been fixed.
Yeah, sure.
So you slammed it or you praised it and then it goes downhill. You're not going to be able to give like the updates. And
the updates
I tend to prefer to go to channels where I can get those updates.
All right, I'm back.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. What I was going to say earlier, though, is when we were talking about 5G, is where Apple has a slight advantage is basically Qualcomm said any company that wants to use the Snapdragon 865, 5G is built in. So you don't really have a choice to get, one without that. So you're going to pay that added expense. Where Apple can continue to release phones without 5G with upgraded processor, and then they throw 5G in separately because they do it on separate chips. And part of that is because they use different companies for their processors.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just Intel and Qualcomm, for the modems. It's like those companies have other suppliers and they make it separate. And it's also it's a little bit easier for them to implement because they can be working on improving their processor, and then if the modems improve, they can just kind of add that on later. They don't have to wait for the new ones to come out, and it's cheaper for them. It actually ends up being cheaper in the end because I've heard that for Apple to add 5G is only going to add like a $20 cost at most.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
That's
so
good.
like the new phones could actually end up being the same price. Like they could actually keep the same price.
That's good. That's good to hear. If it's not
And
gonna,
even like the new iPads.
if it's not gonna boost
Yeah.
up the price like it is with most Android smartphones, if it's like not gonna raise the price in any way, then I don't see a problem with having it. But like, I'm pretty sure if the S20 lineup didn't have the 5G module, or like for example, if Qualcomm didn't build 5G into the 865, what is it called? They probably wouldn't be priced the way they are now. They'd probably be a bit cheaper if they could just add the 5G modem themselves, et cetera, and stuff like that. That's how I see
Hey,
it.
Michael, I just sent you a thing. I just sent you a link on Twitter DMs. Apparently, 9 to 5 Mac just posted a thing. Apple Watch Series 6 has been confirmed. Oh, there goes Michael again. What happened?
Yeah. He just lags out sometimes.
Yeah. So Apple Watch Series 6 and watchOS 7 to include Infograph Pro face with a tachymeter, school time parental control, sleep tracking, and more.
Okay, let me ask you. What do you think about Apple
Sure.
Watch? What do you think about Apple Watch? What's your
I-
overall? Like, do you like it?
Love it. I have the
Okay.
Series 4 and I love it.
Okay.
What about you?
I do like it as well. I think the Apple Watch is great, but what is it called? Over time, as we've
I think
seen, the upgrades that have been coming forth aren't really that much. Oh, hello.
Howdy.
What mic are you using?
hi.
So I had to go. I don't know what's going on with our internet. Like if my dad's running updates or like if something's going weird, because normally nobody's here. Like normally it's just like nobody really else is using the internet that much.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on. I think it's because there's an update for my computer that's trying to install and it keeps failing.
Oh, okay.
And so it's loading in the background. So I'm over on my iPad now with just like this thing. So hopefully the audio's not awful.
It's not awful. It's doable.
And I'm on LTE,
No, it's
so
Okay.
it's like I'll just
No,
switch
you're
it up.
good.
You're fine.
If LTE crashes, then that's T-Mobile's problem.
Yeah, pretty much. But like I was saying,
But
I
back to
think
your question.
yeah, I think the Apple Watch is great, but I don't think the upgrades that have been coming forth, like from over time, I guess you could say, like I know there's not much you can do for an Apple Watch, right, or for a iWatch or whatever. But if for some reason it
Yep.
feels like we already reached like the peak of what the watch can do, like how much the iWatch can do or the Apple Watch can do, or smartwatches in general. Like, what else are you gonna add to a smartwatch? I don't. I think it's already at its peak when it comes to how much you can actually do on it. I mean, I might be wrong, but like most of the new features they're adding to smartwatches feel like just like extra things that most people generally wouldn't use. So like that's how I
Yeah.
see it. So I think that
I see.
but
I can see improved. You know, it's mainly going to be things like improved battery life and improved signal, audio calling quality, things like interoperability between other devices, adding more and more. Like, you know, Apple has a pretty good ecosystem, but adding more things that can be done just on the device itself, as far as even like I know we've talked about before adding, you know, them adding cameras and stuff to it, but
Yeah.
for that I could see like you're walking down the road and let's say you're walking to wherever you're going, you could hold it up like this and have a camera on this side and it would be able to like pick up what's around you and give you, okay, you don't know where you are, you're in a kind of strange area, so you just point it and it uses AI and AR to kind of be like, hey, we recognize where you are.
Hey man, what's up?
And direct you down the road, you know, to the right direction and stuff like that.
Sort of like how
And
when you use Google Maps, I don't know if you used it before, but like there's an AR mode if I remember correctly when you're walking, and if you hold your phone up like this, it'll show like arrows on the map telling you where to go, but it shows you like in real time. Like for example, if you're walking, it'll show like an arrow in front of you. Maybe I'm just like maybe like I forgot or is this not a feature, but I do remember using this like one time like I saw a feature and I just clicked on it and it showed me like where to go. But I get that would be cool to have it just on like a watch. You wouldn't have to use your phone to be able to access that.
and more frequent and more accurate things for like heart rate monitoring and even like blood pressure monitoring. And now they have like the the poke-free blood sugar monitoring and like sleep tracking and more health things I could see. But then you run into privacy concerns of people are like, wait a minute, you have all this information. You now know basically everything about my health. But it's all about, the thing is, it's not any different than like if somebody could hack into a hospital database. Like if somebody really wanted it, and those are probably even less secure because you don't have a company who's focused on security necessarily. Like Apple's huge thing is security, so you don't have some company that's relying on that as like their huge selling point. Monitoring it. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when it comes to the Apple Watch, I think it's one of the best with the health features and everything. I think it's improved a lot. I don't know how much more they could add when it comes to health features, but I mean, if you have an issue with your health, like, your heart, whatever, I think it's definitely one of the best watches to get. What more they could do is, totally up to them. I don't know. I think, like Preston said, I think that it's reached the highest point, in my opinion. If there is more that they can do, I'll be happy to see it. But definitely, I think that it's one of the best watches when it comes to health, exercising. I mean, I've even said it in past videos. It's kind of like having your mother on your wrist when it comes to exercising and making sure you're moving and all that, So it's like, I'll be here making videos and editing videos and stuff, and it'll tell me, hey, you've been sitting too long, get moving, you know. And I like that. I look when it comes to exercise, I need something to give me motivation and get me going, and that's what Apple Watch does for me. I mean, I'm sure that there's other watches out there that do similar things, but to me, there's nothing like the Apple Watch.
Do you guys prefer the circle or the square?
I prefer the square because you get more working real estate out of it, technically.
I prefer the circle.
Yeah, that's true.
It looks like a watch. I don't know. Whenever like you see an Apple Watch on someone's wrist and they're like at like a fancy restaurant or something, it just looks, I wouldn't say tacky. It just doesn't look as nice as an actual watch. So, what is it called? For example, I have a Fossil smartwatch, and even with the screen off, like it just looks super nice, like on my wrist. Like, and it has like I think I have the metal or the leather band to it, and the chat or the actual housing of the watch, like the circle, it's like metal and it's like a metallic color, and it just looks super nice on my wrist. But when you see like an Apple Watch, it looks like a tech product, and I think for a watch, for an app, or for example, a smartwatch to look really good, it would look better if it was looking more like a watch than looking like a tech product. That's what I think.
Cool. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
What's up, Tanner?
Hey, man, what's up?
That's what's up.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing all right. I saw your title. You know what I'm saying? I had to chime in. Y'all talking about iOS 14. I'm a beta tester. So. Yeah. And so far, the beta, you know what I'm saying? They done brought some new stuff to the table, too, more than just the way everything looks. So, yeah, I think 14 is promising, but I still want my multitasking. That's just me. I just want my multitasking on the device and everything. But as far as the way it looks and everything, the betas look familiar, you know what I'm saying, and everything. But they just need to brush up on a couple of apps, too, like the Maps app and stuff like that to make it more intuitive, like a Waze app.
Yeah, I agree. And I completely forgot about multitasking, to be honest with you. I do find multitasking like it's a feature that I didn't know I needed. For example, I was doing a live stream with what's called Michael Pepper, and I had the live stream on my top side, and then I was texting I was texting people on the bottom side of my smartphone, and
Yeah.
I don't know, that just became like most of the time I don't use what is it called, like multitasking or like the dual picture mode or whatever you want to call it. But when I actually need it, it's there for me. The same goes for picture in picture. I think Apple should include picture in picture in iOS 14, and that is something that I do really like on Android smartphones. Because if I'm watching a YouTube video, but someone texts me or I need to respond to a message, I don't have to leave the video, and it can keep on playing in a smaller window. And that's the thing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
It's weird because Apple kind of suggests that they're working on something like that. Like, you know how when a iMessage comes in and you tap on it and it kind of pops up over stuff?
Yeah.
In like the transparent mode, and then you can respond, and whatever you're doing in the background will usually kind of the audio keeps playing and then it goes back out.
Yeah.
So they kind of, and then iPad OS with the split screen stuff has been great. Like the other day, so here's something funny. So my main line is in my OnePlus 7T, and you know how they have Android for web now?
Yeah.
So I had Android for web popped up in another Safari next to the one I was using. So I could literally basically text from my Android phone, but on my iPad, because I had it split over in there. I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
I think the iPad Pro is what, like for me, I think the iPad Pro is what iOS should, or iPad OS is what iOS should strive to be more like. I think the iPad OS is amazing, and I think they should get some things from iPad OS and implement it into iOS in general. No matter if a lot of people say that why would they implement it in iOS, and that would ruin the factor of why people buy an iPad. And while that may be true for some people, I think people are still going to buy iPads because they're big enough and in general. So I think even though they add the features from an iPad into the iPhone, I don't think it's going to ruin anyone's experience. And I think a lot of people will actually appreciate the fact that they're including iPad features in iOS. And I think
absolutely,
they should do that.
Absolutely right. People are still going to buy iPads because business owners like myself, I use an iPad for a checkout counter or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Then children like to watch YouTube on their iPads and everything because of the bigger form factor, the bigger screen and all that. So yeah, Preston, I agree with you 100% on that.
And if you have a beast phone like the 11 Pro Max, why not allow the split screen? I mean, think about that. Like they used to, like my mom's iPhone 7 Plus. You know, when you rotate sideways, it rotates. But they took that away. This screen is larger than that by like a whole inch. But they took those things away. They gave it to us and then took it away. It's like I feel the same thing about 3D Touch. I don't know how you feel about that, Tana, but like the fact that it was a haptic thing, it's actually faster than long press because it can sense your motion. So when you press hard, it doesn't take the time of the delay. And I saw something the other day about how apparently Google's implemented something similar now where instead of it just a long press, the software is sensing that it's a harder press.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a faster reaction. But because there's only so much you can turn it down to. You can only turn it down to so much delay because otherwise it's just going to be like, well, I meant to do a normal press, but it sensed it as a long press, and then everything's going to go to havoc. So
facts. Well, the way I felt about the what's your force touch or whatever, opposed to haptic touch is I like haptic touch better because it's quicker, it's faster. Like you said, with the long press and everything, it took a minute or whatever. But Google, they didn't have a feature like that back in the day on the Samsung Galaxy S5. That was something like that, but you didn't have to touch it. It was like you hover your finger over the icon or whatever, and it just opened up a whole menu or something like that. So you know what I'm saying? I thought that Samsung should have kept that feature or whatever. So it's brilliant of Google to try to go ahead and try to get into the touch feature like that.
What do you guys think about how most of the features that are going to be on the iPhone 12 that we've seen, a lot of things haven't really changed when it comes to the screen of the iPhone. So if you guys know that there's a thread on Twitter that was saying about most of the iPhone 12 rumors and like what's sort of confirmed, and nothing really talked about how the notch was going to be any smaller or how they're going to get rid of the notch maybe in the anytime soon. It just said that they're working on technology that could come to iPhones to make the notch non-existent, but it's only going to come in the next 2 to 3 years. How do you guys feel about that? I think, in my opinion, like, come on, the notch is too big. Make it smaller. Like, there's no really excuse at this point. It's been 3 years and you guys still have the same screen to body ratio. I think that's a bit too much and they should change it. What do you guys think?
Me personally, I think Apple, when it comes to smartphones, Apple is the Canon, the Canon of smartphones. What I mean by that is, this is a T series phone. This is camera T5i or whatever.
Yeah.
From the T3i to now, you can't tell the body difference like that because they make minimal changes. But
yeah,
the software is so updated and much faster that you really can't complain. So if Apple go ahead and upgrades from 11 to the 12 minimally, and software wise and performance wise and everything, but don't change the outside, I'm not gonna trip too much. Just as long as they bring another color too, you know what I'm saying? Just bring something extra to the game. But they are changing their sensor size from 12 to 16, right?
Yeah, for sure. But it's because if Apple has their own like 3-year plan for smartphones. For what I mean by that is, if you see what is called the 10, the 10s, and the 11 are all the same form factor except for the back of the phone for the 11, right? But they changed everything. For example, from the 7 or I think like the 6 or whatever, they didn't change the screen until the 10, right? And when the 10 came out, it had a newer screen, it had the notch, right?
Right.
And they have this 3-year plan. For example, most Android phones have a 2-year plan. So Samsung with the S8 and S9, they both look the same. And then the S10 came out and the S11 came out, and it was just incremental changes. The S20, sorry, incremental changes. They have a 2-year plan, but Apple has a 3-year plan. So they should be changing a lot more when it comes to the way it looks with the 12, or at least trying to make the notch a little bit smaller. But what we've seen so far is that they might not do that at all, which I think kind of ruins the fact that most people wait for the 3-year, or people that know about it wait for the 3-year plan to go through so they can get a new phone that looks different and actually like it. And for the iPhone, like I see people waiting for the iPhone 12 and they have the iPhone 7, for example, because they want to wait for the 3-year plan to be over so they can get the newer one that looks better than the older one, right? But if they're not going to change anything, then I think that kind of ruins the fact of having a 3-year plan when they're not going to really follow through with that. So that's why
if you
go ahead, Pep.
If you look at it though, it's so I know what you're talking about, and I actually had the same thought. So if you look at it, the 4, the 4S, the 5, and the 5S were all the same.
Yeah.
Look wise. Then the 6, the 6S, the 7, and the 8.
8, yeah.
So then the 10, the 10S series, the 11, and then the 12, and then they'll change it. It's a 4-year.
Oh, it's a
4-year.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think also that if you look at like the iPad Pro, right, the 2018 model was the first where they kind of went to that really narrow bezels and the Face ID all around, no matter which direction you're holding it, you get. And I think that just as we kind of discussed earlier, how they like to put things on the iPad, and they even did it with the iPod Touch before they put it on the iPhones, that this is some kind of telling us, hey, the next iPhone, not the 12, but probably the 13, or maybe they'll do it as an 11S this year, so that the 12 will get the full change. But on the same hand, it would be weird for them to do an S series and put all these upgraded cameras like the 64 megapixel on the back and things like that. So I think they're done with the S series now. just as they kind of got rid of, they did the 10R, but they didn't do an 11R. I think they're on to full numbers now.
I think the 11 is the 11R, and they just didn't name it that. So the 11 is basically the XR. So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And to the notch or whatever, have you ever noticed that when companies minimize the notch, they take away a certain feature? Like when Samsung did it or whatever, it took away the iris protection and everything. Yeah. So now it brings face unlock. I mean, the only way I can get into my iPhone 10R is by looking at it or dialing a code or anything. So if they do shrink the notch, it might take away Face ID.
For me personally, I like using fingerprints. So I do still prefer Touch ID, and I hope they bring that back. I hope so badly that they bring back Touch ID. Yeah, in my opinion, it's way better than what's called Face ID. And just like overall use factor, like when it comes to it, sometimes you can't really look at your phone. You just want to unlock it real quick. You can't really do that unless you put in your code or whatever, and it takes a while. I just think the in-display fingerprint scanner hopefully should come to iPhones maybe next year, if anything. So I'm hoping
that's a great point. I'll be right back. I gotta show you something.
Okay.
So
having I think maybe having both would be pretty cool. So like if one's not working for whatever reason, there's always the other option. So I think that would be a cool idea for the next iPhone.
Having Face ID and Touch ID, that would be cool. That's something I would prefer as well.
Yeah. What bothered me is when you had Touch ID, you could have 5 different fingerprints in there, right? So you could technically have 5 different people that could unlock that thing.
Right.
Face ID, now you can have 2. Yeah. Because there's the alternate ID. So unless you were going to give your PIN away to people, which I wouldn't suggest.
Right.
And then change your PIN when you don't want somebody having access or have to wipe the face completely. Like, for example, Tana, let's say you have your face in there and you have Gigi's face in there and something happened with you guys. You'd have to wipe both faces completely. You can't just go in and clear hers out and then start over.
Facts.
Like, that's a weird software thing to me. Like, that they don't just because you can go in and with fingerprint, you could go in and just remove like 1 or 2 of them or whatever and be on your way. You can't. So.
Fact. And when it comes to fingerprint game, my A50 got the in-display fingerprint reader or whatever, but it's hella slow. You know what I'm saying? This Huawei Mate RS right here that I got, you know what I'm saying, Porsche edition, has the physical fingerprint sensor on the back, and it's hella fast. So Preston, you speaking facts, man. So what Apple needs to do is, it's been right there in their face all along, is to make the Apple logo fingerprint sensor. It's right there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I hope so. I've always had this thing whenever, like before I even started a YouTube channel, a lot of people would say I'm stupid or whatever, I was crazy. But it was like, I think when the iPhone 7 came out, when I was in like freshman year of high school, I always said, why don't they just make the Apple logo a fingerprint scanner? And then people were saying that they moved the Apple logo on the newer phones to show that on the next generation phones that's the optimal place to put your AirPods when you have to wirelessly charge them. That's what they were saying. That's how they're gonna do it. And I was like, well, why don't they just double down and use that as a fingerprint scanner as well? Like it only makes sense. Like might as well.
Yes, sir.
I just think if they implemented it, that'd be pretty cool. And especially if I don't know if you guys have seen those mods where like it makes the Apple logo glow or like it lights up. Yeah, that's like a thing that it's kind of like overboard, but I really do appreciate. So like it looks really cool, right? You have your phone off and the Apple logo just glows. I think that's sick. But if they actually like implemented that with the fingerprint scanner, I think that would be pretty cool. That's just me.
Yeah, that would be absolutely lit. No question about it.
To me, you're talking about under the screen fingerprint scanners, and this phone right here is like the king of under the screen.
Hey,
the 17, it's the problem is the Face ID is so fast. So half the time I pick it up, it's already unlocked.
Yeah,
facts.
I like both though, like you said, because like if I'm in the car or something, and let's say I need to use Maps. And, you trigger Google and it will say, please unlock phone. I can just reach over and like glance over and put my finger on and then it glows and it unlocks, and it's pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
But for every day, I usually just pick it up, look at it, and it unlocks.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys prefer
Yep.
faster unlock or more secure? Because Apple's is slower than the 7T, but it's more secure. And the 7T is faster, but is less secure when it comes to Face ID.
Right. Face unlock. Bam. Right there. Yeah.
So I actually intended on having it, but my phone auto-updated, so I lost the jailbreak. But I had a jailbreak on my iPhone 10.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to talk about fast, that Face ID, I disabled in a jailbreak, the swipe to unlock.
Yeah.
It was immediate. As soon as I picked that thing up, it was right into the home screen. The pages were up. It's like the fastest unlock I've seen on any device. Like, and you're talking about a device that's 2.5 years old. Like, it was crazy to see. And I turned off their animations. And man, iOS on that thing. So if Apple allowed that, like you to turn off animations completely without their weird roundabout way and accessibility that's like glitchy, and allowed you to make it so it goes right into the home screen, ooh, people better watch out. If they want fast, they're not even going to know. They're going to look and it's just going to be done.
Facts.
Yeah, and I really prefer, and I hated the fact that when you looked at your phone, you still have to swipe up. I think that literally kills the whole point of having Face ID. You literally still have to unlock it by swiping. It makes zero sense to have it on an iPhone and then be like, oh, by the way, you still have to swipe up, even though you just registered your face. It should automatically open up your phone. You shouldn't have to swipe up.
Absolutely, because even on a 2-year-old phone like this Mate RS or whatever, I could just look at it. It's going straight to the home screen, no swiping up or nothing.
I think they should at least give the option to do that. I see why by default they have it to swipe up, because, for example, you get a notification, right? You don't want people seeing the notifications, but if you look at it and then it will give more details, right? And then you swipe to go in. I get that. So if you don't want to go to the lock, past the lock screen because you're just looking to see your notifications real quick, I get that. But give the option to go around it, like Android does, like, because you can set it up so that that you have to swipe to unlock. You can set it up so it emulates the way iOS does it, but at least give us the option to go past. I mean, I'd love it on my iPad because the multi-direction, I just pick the thing up, flip it open, and it's there. But one thing that I've noticed when you're talking about like fingerprint scanner versus face is for banking and authentication.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have to cut this short. I'm actually gonna have to cut the conversation short. I just got a call. I gotta head out. I have a thing to do. So I'm sorry, but I would love to have all of you guys back here and maybe continue the conversation some of the time, maybe later this week or something, if you guys are up to it.
That's cool.
Sure.
I'll be doing a Thursday night stream this week. My birthday's Tuesday, so I'll be doing it as a kind of birthday stream. So if any of you are around Thursday night, come on over. It'd be awesome to have more than just my face there. So
all right, cool. Birthday. Yes,
yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah,
sorry
get it.
about that, guys. I got a call. I gotta head out.
Have a good one.
But you too, guys. Thank you guys for joining. It was awesome to talk to you guys and get you guys' input on the subjects. Guys, we hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Please subscribe to me if you guys are new. If you guys have any questions for us, leave it down in the comment section down below after the stream, and we'll be happy enough to get back to you guys. Again, talk to you guys soon. Apple Monster out.
Yeah.
Peace.